Hello and welcome to Homeopathy Simplified podcast and vlog, YouTube blog. Anyway, this is Jonathan DeMonte, and I'm going to be talking about the taking and evaluation of a remedy. And it's episode 17. So, first of all, a little bit about me. As you know, I'm a homeopath and a Bowen therapist, and I first discovered homeopathy from my father in the 60s. His name was John DeMonte, and he was one of the very important teachers in Europe during the resurgence of homeopathy in the 60s and 70s. And I was fortunate to study homeopathy through his students, and I feel a very strong connection to his career. When I started my homeopathic practice, I then became a Bowen therapist and developed a practice focusing on chronic pain and disease. And in that time, I really looked for the most efficient ways of prescribing effective remedies. And so after 27 years, I've come full circle, and I want to share my own knowledge. I've made a purpose of teaching a course that is the one I wished I'd had in the very beginnings of my career. A course created to make the complex simple and shine a path through a forest of ideas and misconceptions about homeopathy. So when we talk about taking a remedy and following its action, we mean that we need to evaluate its effects. So looking up in the dictionary, what is the meaning of evaluation? We see it's described as the systematic process of assessing the worth, effectiveness, or value of a program, policy, product, or intervention by collecting and analyzing data to determine how well it is achieving its intended goals. So before going into the evaluation, I want to talk about the taking of the remedy first. So how to take a homeopathic remedy. So we usually buy a remedy in a granule format, also known as a globule or pellet. And this pellet is made of sucrose or lactose sugar. And this is the carrier for the actual medicine, and it impregnates into the sugar via a droplet or liquid form of the medicine itself. So the medicines are made into liquid, and then a drop is put onto the sugar. And the sugar is a carrier for the medicine and the information of the medicine that the body receives through the sugar when you put it in your mouth. So the potency or strength is not as important as the chosen remedy. So if the strength that was prescribed or you'd prefer is not available, any will do, because the remedy itself is more important than the strength. And all homeopathic remedies are safe as they're highly diluted. And I'm going to tell you how to take the remedy safely with these simple rules. So take only 1 to 2 globules, pellets, or granules at a time. Ignore the instructions on the packaging. They are probably there just to provide a legislated instructions that may or may not be correct. You know, when you read a bottle that says take 3 to 5 globules 3 to 5 times a day, that's really much too much. And you want to evaluate the single dose first. So you dissolve it in your mouth, on or under the tongue, a few minutes away from eating or drinking. To test the effectiveness of the remedy, I suggest taking only 2 doses 1 hour apart in an acute disease. In a chronic illness, it's important to take only once and give about 24 to 72 hours to evaluate even a modicum of effect. And you'll see that even waiting much longer following that initial day or two is required. So do not repeat a remedy without evaluating the effects of the remedy taken first, prior. If you are clear it helped and your symptoms which were helped are returned, then it is safe and reasonable to repeat. So good responses after a remedy can include a slight aggravation lasting no more than an hour, feeling sleepy and sleeping itself, symptoms improving, and then wait till symptoms return before repeating. This is a very important point. Bad responses after a remedy can include an aggravation of the state of illness lasting longer than an hour, agitation in your nervous system, spiking fever, and even delirium. A worsening of your symptoms, such as developing a cough. If you were treating a head cold, for example, and the cough developed, that's the wrong direction. That means the illness has gotten worse. So if concerned, stop the remedy and seek the advice of your homeopath, or choose a new remedy based on newer symptoms. In an acute illness, reevaluate the remedy. In a chronic illness, just keep waiting if there was an effect, good or bad. So when purchasing a remedy, please use either a 6CH, 12CH, or 30CH. If absolutely sure of the prescription, use a 200CH. These tend to be more commonly available, meaning usually 30 is the most commonly available, and then 200. If the remedy was working after a few repetitions and the symptoms have not changed when they return, you can add a granule to half a glass of water, stir gently, and take a half a teaspoon. Keep the water for up to 2 weeks, and then you can repeat the remedy as needed from the water. You just simply stir the water again and take another half teaspoon. That's a wonderful way of changing the remedy a little bit. So, James Tyler Kent, a very famous homeopath from the 1800s, who died in 1910, had this wonderful quote: "Often we have acted too soon, but never waited too long." And wiser words were never spoken to a homeopath or homeopathic user. Because the evaluation of the action of the first dose of a homeopathic remedy is the time when our original analysis leading to its choosing will be put to the test of being right or wrong. It is the most difficult part of prescribing, as you need to have clarity on its effect upon each area of the patient's state of disease in order to follow the many possible changes in their illness thus far. So it shows that we're really looking at all the nuanced effects of a medicine on all the nuanced symptoms of a disease. So first of all, if we don't have that good information from the initial case taking, we cannot know what to follow precisely enough to be successful in managing the patient's responses. In order to prescribe successfully for a second prescription, we must be very clear about the effects of the remedy and on what we are precisely treating, whether the prescription is for an acute case or a chronic case, or for the acute expressions of a chronic condition. So, what do we look for? What is good information in our initial case taking? It would come down to things like, I've taken it off the page, sorry, just messing around with this. Let me go back to it. So, in the sense of what to look for, we want to know their temperature, and that doesn't mean just their thermometer temperature, body temperature. We want to know what is their feeling of temperature, whether they're hot, cold, what parts of their body feels cold, and again, the sense of the environment, what they want in their air and temperature, whether they want to be wrapped up warmly or open air, and their head out the window, getting gasps of fresh air. How they move their bodies, what is the comfortable positions that they need in order to manage themselves to their best comfort. So lying on one side only, or not being able to lie on their back, or needing to sit in a chair so that they can breathe properly. The perception they have of senses, in their senses. So things like light and noise, crowds, this is very important information to how they are responding in their environment. If they have headaches, what are the characteristics of the headaches? What is the sensation of the pain? What is the side and location of the pain? Their breathing. How do they breathe? Do they need to breathe deeply? Do they need to breathe shallow? Are they panting? Are they just gasping for air? Their pulse, of course, and their blood pressure. Their sexual functions, including the menstruation, how their libido is, And menstruation has a lot of nuances. What is the regularity of it? What is the intensity of it? What is the duration of it? What is the show of blood, etc.? And then appetite and thirst, those factors that have changed. Maybe they're drinking more water, less water, wanting cold water. Their cravings and desires. So that means mostly foods and drinks. Maybe they only want orange juice. Maybe they only want warm tea. Maybe they want to eat bread, toast with jam. Who knows? Their bladder function and what is the condition of the bladder? Are they voiding properly? All the different nuances there. Bowel movements and the energy and the variables of the energy and at what times it goes up or down. The sleep. How easy is it to falling asleep? Are they waking up? Are they feeling refreshed in the morning? That's the next one, waking. What times they wake? Their moods and temperaments. Are they, clingy in a child? Are they irritable in a child? Are they clingy or irritable in an adult? Are they wanting to be alone? Are they snappish? Are they weepy? All of these different simple emotions that we would have. Letting go of the story of what makes a person sad, irritable, or whatever is showing up in their moods, but more just the simple state. What are they while they're ill? Are they irritable while they are ill? That's a symptom. How they are in company and whether they want solitude, the level of irritability, physical or emotional, and then their mental function, comprehension of thought and memory are important factors that could change during their illness. So once you've got a sort of good perspective on their symptoms, you've chosen a remedy, then comes the dose and then how to follow up. So in chronic illness, we would often want to have a follow-up of about 3 to 6 weeks. So this delay is partly a control of our natural urge to overprescribe or re-prescribe before the action of the first dose of the remedy has come to an end. And this can be very difficult in intense cases of a chronic disease where the symptoms are very flared. We might be prescribing the chronic remedy for that condition and want to prescribe too soon to help manage the symptoms, when really the first dose might have a longer action before it resolves the condition. And so it's very important to communicate to your patient that it is a difficult process at times where, human nature wants to do the most possible. And we as homeopaths are so guilty of that, wanting to do the best for our patients and give the most amount of remedies, hoping that there'll be a shift in a horrible situation. That could be in an arthritic situation, a psoriatic, like psoriasis situation, or something like that, where the symptoms are very irritated and we want to give relief right away. And yet it's not an acute disease, it's a chronic disease. Remember, the difference between a chronic disease and an acute disease, once an acute disease is 3 weeks or older, it's a chronic disease, and you have to manage it that way. So it's very difficult. Sometimes homeopaths will, in a situation like that, give blank remedies, unmedicated, so that the patient can feel that they're taking something. And that's, I don't use that because it's complex to keep the story straight, to be honest, when you're, using a white lie like that. It's much better to get the patient on side and teach them that it's really important to, wait the term of the illness and wait the term of the action of the remedy. So in an acute illness, we might follow up, if someone has a terrible sore throat or they're vomiting, a couple of hours after a dose of remedy should be enough to gauge the effectiveness. And within that 24-hour period, we might find that we need to repeat the remedy once or even twice more. Fever conditions are always worse in the evening, and so We might, see a spike if they took the remedy in the day, and it wouldn't resolve until the next day. Again, it's hard to wait. So this is another instance where you might give a remedy more than once, but foolishly, and not waited long enough. So keep in mind when you're treating a fever, if the condition is an exacerbation of the chronic condition, such as in cancer where a person's exhausted or they're wasting with cachexia, a dose 1 to 7 days following the first dose could be a good time span in that kind of exacerbated state. So again, that's a lot of waiting when someone's in a crisis. So I've got this handy chart to show you that, the different follow-ups that you might do. So on the left side, we see chronic disease, and on the right side, acute disease. We give the dose, then we wait, and we wait for these parameters to see if either the symptoms improve, worsen, or there's no change. If the symptoms improve, we wait. And then again, if the symptoms begin to worsen and the symptoms are the same, repeat the remedy. After waiting and new symptoms develop, we must retake the case to be sure if the remedy we first gave covers these symptoms, or maybe has those symptoms and might have represented them. So there may be a better remedy to cover the new amount of symptoms. So if symptoms worsen, just wait, because it could come to this point where new symptoms show up or the symptoms improve. That's what we're waiting for. No change. You've waited, there's no change, retake the case. So quite straightforward in chronic disease. In acute disease, it's much faster to decide these things. So if the symptoms improve, it's exactly the same as in chronic disease. We wait. If they worsen again, you repeat. If there are new symptoms, you retake the case. If the symptoms worsen, again, wait, because maybe the symptoms improve, you still wait longer. And then if you've waited and the symptoms still worsen, you retake the case. So in the instance of no change in an acute disease, if you're really sure about the remedy, you could repeat, but still wait after the second dose. If there's no change, you retake the case. If there is change, you're in this category where the symptoms improve. All right, so I hope that helps, and look forward to doing more of these recordings, and I hope you enjoy them. If you are interested in more information about the course itself, go to homeopathysimplified.com, get on the website mailing list, and you'll get information sent to you. And also you'll get notifications about the next course start date. And waiting for that is good because there's always a good discount on the price when I announce it that way. Okay, so thank you so much, and talk soon.